concern yourself with things like this, but from your vantage point, do you think that was Bo's best game or most complete game or close to it?
Yeah, I thought it was close to it, certainly coming out of the game, I felt that way. And then, he played really well, made plays when we needed them. I told the receivers, I think that's one of the better games I've ever been a part of from a receiver room. The way they caught the ball, obviously, and the blocking, I thought that was a very physical secondary, and those guys did a really good job. And even guys that maybe didn't show up on the stat sheet, they were just big plays that they made, and so everyone contributed, and that allows the quarterback to play well. So we're real happy with it.
Completion percentage up over the last 4 weeks for Bo. Obviously, that's simple, but has there been something that you've seen in his game? They're different styles of games, but that's been more efficient overall over the last month or so?
I think his footwork's gotten a lot better. The way he handles himself in the pocket, trusting the protection, and we've talked about it all year. And I think the last 4 games he's done a really good job with that. So he's moving when he needs to and hanging in there when he needs to. And I think he's playing better, and I think everyone around him's playing better. Doesn't guarantee anything for tomorrow, but real happy with the way he's played the last month.
Joe, Sean said yesterday that you guys would understand her a little bit more against Green Bay because you kind of knew a little bit of how they would scout you, so trying to self-scout. Like, what was that process of trying to kind of counter whatever you thought that they were going to try?
Yeah, I mean, you're always looking at what your run-pass ratio is out of different formations, under center, in the gun, and just tried to break some of those tendencies a little bit. And it's an important part of the game and something we pay attention to. So, that was kind of the story there.
With how much they take the ball away, how do you be aware of that as an offense without kind of shying away from taking chances or playing too much?
Yeah, I think it starts with ball security, just the way you hold the ball when you're carrying it. We're talking fumbles now. And, I think when you watch our team, I think our ball security is excellent. Lou, our running back coach, kind of heads that up every, Thursdays are the day where we have a ball security circuit, and just the way he teaches how to carry the football, what to do when you're in traffic, how to fall down with the ball. A lot of fumbles happen when you're hitting the ground and you go to protect yourself. And so he does a fantastic job with that. And then with the quarterback, I don't think it changes week to week. Obviously, you're more aware when you're facing a defense that has ball skills and they're in position. Their linebackers got long arms. They get in the alleys. Those guys both have a high number of interceptions in their career for linebackers. So just being aware of how they're getting those turnovers and again, I think Bo does a good job of protecting the football when he throws it, and so just trying to keep up with that. It's such an important stat. It's hard to say you emphasize it more from one week to the next because it's always so important, but knowing that this team does such a good job taking the ball away and they thrive off that, it's certainly something that we're highlighting this week.
Coach, now that Plachetsky's had a decent amount of time on task, how have you seen him develop as a starter?
Yeah, I think just, he's always kind of been a right-sided offensive lineman, so just, getting used to the footwork on the left side. I think he's just gotten more comfortable and, working together with the guys that he's playing next to, that comes along every week. So I think he's played well from the jump and just keeps getting better.
Joe, what was your reaction or feeling or emotion when Bandy scored his first touchdown?
Yeah. I mean, everyone was thrilled. I was with Michael for 2 years in L.A. and kind of watched him just work and work and work. Sean had a stat of how many practices he's been a part of in the NFL, and to see him, he kind of got in the game in place of Marvin because Marvin was down. And, it's a benefit of being a guy that knows every position. It's just like, hey, you go play Z on this play, you go play X, and he can do it all because he knows the offense so well. And, no one deserved it more than him. I was thrilled.
What's the difference Jacoby Myers has made on that Jacksonville offense?
He's made a huge difference. When you watch the early part of the season, without Jacoby, it's a good offense still. but he's added a toughness, a smarts, that vet receivers add to offense. The quarterback likes throwing to this receiver, and that's something that they've worked out, fairly quickly. He's a blocker. We faced him twice a year for 3 years now, and he's always been a good player, and his toughness, consistency as a player has helped his offense go to the next level.
What does it mean to lose Brandon first and then second, obviously, the experience that sort of PJ gives?
Yeah. Obviously, Brandon's played well for us, and he's been a starter for us for 2 years. So when you lose a player like that, it doesn't make it better, but we have depth at safety. That's one spot on our defense where we do have depth. And PJ obviously played a bunch of ball for us in the last couple of years. So I feel good about it, but I feel bad for Brandon. He's having a hell of a year, and it's been a special year, and he can't finish it. But I think defensively we should be in good shape with our depth there.
Really a lot more man percentage-wise than anybody else. We've got 3 of the top players in the league. What goes behind that?
Well, I think sometimes, like when you're watching us play, it may seem like man, but sometimes it's not. I've read all the articles sometimes, and they talk about the man percentages, and I'm shocked sometimes of how the numbers are so high. But obviously that's what they see, so I'll just say yes to it. But yeah, I'm just.
What's the real percentage?
I'm just trying to game plan weekly to win a game, So I'm not sure how much it looks like man and how much man it is. I can't tell you that, what people see, but I know what I'm calling, and I'm calling just to win a game, and that's my answer to that.
When you go man, is it a personnel decision?
No, I think it's a combination. Like you have, down and distance, who we're playing. Is it run load the box? Is it attacking protections with man or zone? I think the beauty of playing defense in this new NFL, this past first NFL, is can you get him close without playing man? Right? When you tell a DB he's playing man, that means he has both sides of the route. Right? So if you're playing maybe a fire zone, he has one side of the route. Confidence-wise, he's going to play more aggressive for you. So, if they say it's all man, it's all man.
You're playing half man.
I don't know. I'm just, that's what you're reading, that's what they're saying, that's what we're playing.
PJ, what are you seeing from Trevor Lawrence? Early in the season, he was throwing under 60% completion, was really having some issues, but the last 3 games, he's been astronomical.
He's playing very well, obviously after watching Love play, for a week and, with our film study, then watching this player play, it's equal. They're both super talented. They're both really well coached. That's what I instantly see with both offenses. They're both very well coached. He's playing well. He's so talented as far as he can make every single throw. He has speed to outrun free runners. He can avoid free runners with, giving ground to gain ground. He's putting them in the right plays. So he's playing at a high level. He's got a lot of targets, tight end, receivers. The back ETN is playing at a high level also. And the O-line, again, man, it's a really good O-line. They play well together. It's very few free runners with pressure. So it's really crazy. It looks like, almost like Green Bay. It's the same family of coaches, obviously. Some of the concepts are very similar, but they're both playing at a high level. And the last 4 weeks, he's been really hot. So it's going to be a challenge for us again. We like it. We love the challenges, and, we're ready for it.
Coach, you've been around Alex Singleton a lot over the past couple of years. You were just named the team's Ed Block Award winner. What have you seen that he really exemplifies?
Well, he's team first. He's had, the ACL last year, and, he was rehabbing himself and getting back to the field, but he didn't miss a meeting. He couldn't travel for the first 3 weeks after the injury last year, but after that, he was traveling with us. He was helping coach the inside linebackers. We were so young and so new there. And this year, with his cancer scare, his first thought was the team. It wasn't about him, and that makes him a special person. He's giving his teammates, they love this person. His career example, for these young players, man, it's key. You never give up. He's been cut multiple times. He's having his best football years now, at his age, and he's got more in him. So it's been fun to see him come back from those two issues, and he's playing really good football right now for us.
Coach, you guys stopped Green Bay on 5 of the last 6 possessions. Those in-game adjustments and the ability to make corrections during the game, how critical is that this time of year as you head into the postseason?
That's always critical, especially when you're playing the best. The best coach teams, the best players, the best quarterbacks. You've got to be able to adjust quickly. Our every week we have 3 things, right? Nail what we know, what's on film and what they're good at. We have to nail that and know that, right? We have to adjust quickly and play with effort. So every game, we have to adjust something, right? It's the NFL. Everyone's making adjustments at halftime, especially. So I think getting to halftime and settling guys down and making the proper adjustments, or just fixing your game plan and making more plays sometimes is the key also. But how you adjust to the offense is critical in this league. If you don't, you can't win. So for me, it's just fundamental. It's what we do, not special, right? You have to do that in this league to win games.
Vance, there's a notion that turnover to takeaways come in bunches. So with Pat and Riley finally getting there first, do you think that that's opening the floodgate, or just got to see?
I surely hope so. We've got a bunch of sacks without forced fumbles, and that's really rare. You have so many sacks and not enough forced fumbles, but you hope they come in bunches. We're going to keep talking about those things and keep stressing them in meetings, and we hope you're right. Come in bunches.
Vance, what has it been like to see the practice facility continue to make progress over the course since camp, and your level of excitement to eventually be?
That's special. That speaks to our ownership, and we don't have any issues here. This is the best job in football. Whatever coach asks for, we get. So we have no excuses not to win games here. The best fans and the best owners in football. So it's the best job in the league.
I think Sean mentioned their return game yesterday as one of the keys. What stands out to you?
Yeah, so that's, they've done a really good job. So Parker Washington, their punt returner, has already had a couple touchdowns this year. He had one called back on a suspect penalty, really. So he's gotten the end zone 3 times and had a lot of other, big plays. He's kind of been on and off their kick return, but he's their main punt returner. Just a really good speed player. Not surprised because he was a really good player coming out of college. So they've excelled in that area and created some field position, made some big plays. So he's been in the end zone 3 times this year. He had another one the year before. So, and then their kick return. Now they've used multiple guys. I know Tootin's hurt, injured right now, but so we can expect multiple guys back there. They just signed DJ Dallas, who's always been a good kick returner around the league. They poached him, and so he'll be there. So they have the thing about their roster is they got a lot of different guys that can do it, and not to mention, heck, they've got some really good core players. They've been blocking well for them too. So really well rounded. Their coverage has been solid too. Their kickers exceptional talent. They're former Pro Bowl punter, Pro Bowl snapper. So they've kind of covered all the bases there. So this would be a nice challenge for us. But their return game stands out for sure.
Is Little kind of in that category with Aubrey in terms of the leg strength? Something you have to be aware of?
Yeah, that's, when he was at the Combine, that's the thing that, I'm down in the field at the Combine, and that's the thing that just stood out when you watch him hit the ball. He's just violent through the ball, and the elevation, the leg strength. So am I surprised that he hit a 70-yarder and a 68-yarder and whatever? No. And I'm sure the ball he'll be loving the pregame here if it's a nice day. The ball will be flying in our stadium. So, he's a weapon. Will Lutz and I were talking about earlier. You watch his film, just very, very consistent. Not, really good ball strikes, really good elevation. So, he's that again to be a challenge for us.
How much do kickers watch other kickers? I guess I'm curious. Like with Will, what's his week look like beyond looking at what their fronts might do?
Yeah, I think their kickers maybe lump them into categories. There's probably certain guys that Will watch, and then others he won't because he's not the same style. But I would say this: special teams is unique. We watch coaches, kickers, punters. We kind of watch all the plays from around the league because we only have our 25 to 30 from our game. So most of the time we watch the entire league. So you always look for things that you can help you. And as you guys know, it's a copycat league. Either whether it's schemes, whether it's different ideas. But I would say that a guy like Will, who's been around the league for a long time now, he's got a pretty good handle on the other kickers. Listen, we had the Pro Bowl voting going on, and here Will and I are talking this morning about the guys throughout the league that are doing a good job. And so, I would say that those guys do a fair amount because they're going to get their, whatever it is, 5 to 9 reps in one game. So they're watching, what can they learn from, and the same thing with the snappers, the operation, the kickoffs. these last 2 years, I would tell you that the kickers watch all the different kickoffs that guys are using because it's kind of brand new still to all of us. So yeah, they do a fair amount of studying, the other guys.
Coach, speaking of the Pro Bowl voting, Jeremy is the only Bronco right now that's number one at his position. Were you at all surprised seeing him that high up? I think it's been 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, listen, first of all, I would say that Jeremy's done a great job. So yes and no. I say yes because he's a rookie. And so sometimes some of the veteran guys, I'm going to tell you that he probably has a strong Australian voting. I'm going to tell you that the country of Australia is probably representing as well as our fans. But no, good for him because, listen, I think some of the times we all get caught up, right? Jeremy had one bad game. And I think people kind of just get locked in on one thing. You look at the body of work, he's up there in the league in punts inside the 20. He's up there in the league in forced fair catches. He's up there in the league in return percentage against. So there's a lot of analytics that he's leading. He's in the top 3 or 4 guys in the league. And so I think sometimes we've all grown up and you just look at the gross number and the net number and not all these other numbers where, we call it winning punting or winning kicking. And so I would say the majority of the games, he's really done a great job with that, either ball location and pinning people back. So, I'm surprised maybe because he's a rookie, but I'm not surprised because his results have been really good in a lot of different areas.
Riz, going back to what you were saying about you watched the whole league,
Yep.
Does that mean that special teams coaches probably are the most comprehensive in their Pro Bowl vote because it's impossible to watch the other 31 teams every week and see every play for all?
Yeah, listen, I think that's a really fair statement. I think that, for example, tonight we'll go in, myself and Moof and Zach, and we'll watch all of the big plays from around the league. We'll watch, and that includes, touchdowns, plus 20 punt returns, plus 40 kick returns, all the missed kicks, any blocks, any fakes. So we're seeing the majority of the league. We're not just examining our opponent. I think sometimes if you ask our coaches, they could give you a really good Pro Bowl vote on our opponents because they've dove into those, where I think the special teams guys, we're a pretty tight-knit group, and we probably spend the most time watching the 31 other teams.
Well, and then
one more.
Yeah.
when you got, like, Brandon Jones is down, obviously we'll see what's up with Justin. So I guess when you got guys get thrust into more action or taken away, how challenging is it when your special teams units have been rolling?
Yeah, that's the number one job of a special teams coach, I would say, is to make sure your whole roster is prepared. I would say this: we do have a deep DB room, we do have a deep linebacker room. We've played a lot of guys, and so yeah, our job is to always shuffle the deck there at the bottom. We've had, as we've had multiple guys up this year and call ups, and we've been able to do it in many forms and fashions, and that's what we're going to continue to have to do because you look around the league and everybody's dealing with the same thing. But I think that's why it's so important for your practice squad guys and the bottom half of your roster to all prepare and be ready to go every week.